Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. Episode 332 starts now, broadcasting live from Capitol Hill. Raheem Kassam, Bora, Jack Maxey. You saw there on your screens, courtesy of our next guest, Mark Evans. Scenes from the federal state of China protest in Canada yesterday. These things are going on all over the world right now, and Mark's in Vancouver, I believe, joining us down the line. I just want to remind you guys, we're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice.News, G News and GTV subtitled in Mandarin and blown through the CCP's firewall, and Newsmax TV later on in the day. All right, Jack, lots going on all around the world, and we've got to do a lot of work here in this hour to do with China, the flooding, the famine, the trade talks, the pandemic. There's a whole lot more going on as well. Of course, typically I will get some plugs for the National Pulse into the second hour here, but I want to throw it over to you and our guest, Mark Evans.
Hey, I just want to give our listeners a little background because this talks to the power of our audience. So yesterday, I'm looking at Twitter, and Mark Evans tags me. He's at a protest rally in Vancouver. He was also at the protest rally in July. And what's really interesting, and I hope Mark will talk about it a little bit, his wife is Chinese, and he's a Canadian bloke. And she was listening to G News on the side, and he was listening to War Room Pandemic on the other side. And the two of them put their heads together and said, hey, man, we got to do something about this. So Mark and his wife participated in the protest on July 27th in Toronto. And a couple days ago, they heard there was going to be a protest in Vancouver. And this wonderful couple said, hey, let's hop on a plane and get out there, to make a trip out of it and show the Canadian people and the world that we've got to do something about the Chinese Communist Party to free the Chinese people. So, Mark, it's really a great pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks a lot for reaching out to me. Mark, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about, what your motivations were, how you got involved in this process? And I thought it was so amazing that you guys made a trip out of heading out to Vancouver to participate there. So you're just covering the entire country of Canada. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this and what sparked your desire to stand up for the rights of the Chinese people.
Sure. Well, I've been involved. We've been married over 27 years, so I've got a long history. I was like Steve. I was in China in the early 90s. He was there a little bit before me. But look, I was watching American news. I've been watching it for the last 4 years very actively, and then in China, when the virus came out, I started watching a lot more War Room Pandemic. She, on the other hand, was watching Miles Guo. So funny enough, we kind of merged in the middle and realized we were kind of talking about the same thing. And then since basically January, we've been watching very closely and getting more and more riled up about what's going on in China and Hong Kong and with the Uyghurs. And, she's a very private person, never very political. Most Chinese aren't. But I got to tell you, and that's true with me too, and I got to tell you that in the last 4 or 5 months, we've actually become very active. And you know what? That's true with a lot of the other Chinese as well. And I think it's a really incredible thing to watch.
Well, you know, Mark, we were talking last night. This is an emotional thing, right? A lot of these people, particularly the ethnic Chinese who have families back in China, are really putting themselves at risk by taking a stand here. And you, I think, represent what is going on with a lot of people in the world. You've been watching quietly for years, and now you kind of have had enough. And does it feel good to get out there and participate in the protest, to take a stand, to take a moral stand?
It really does. I'm in my 50s, and Canadians are pretty mild in general, but you know what? It feels amazing to get up and do that. And, it's nothing for me to go to a protest. There's no risk for me whatsoever, but every one of those Chinese that show up, and they're all Chinese, by the way, they all have family back at home, and they're all at risk in some way. So a lot of them wear masks, not just because of the pandemic, but they do it to protect themselves, and I completely understand it. But you know what? More and more of them are taking their masks off too, and they're standing up. And in my Twitter feed, I said they're brave, and they really, really are brave to do this. Like I said, it's nothing for me, but for them, they risk a lot. So that's why I'm here. And you know what? I think just to be with them and bridge the gap between the Chinese and the Western Canadians like myself, there's got to be a bridge to the average Canadian so that they know what's going on and they follow. And I got to say, your show's done an incredible job to pull people like me in and make them more active. So kudos to you guys.
Hey, thank you so much. And you talked last night about Canadians getting involved, and Canada has an interest in that. There are 2 Canadian citizens we talked about last night who've been arrested in response to the Huawei situation in Canada, and they're being held almost as hostages in order to attempt to change the government of Canada's position on Huawei and perhaps on other technology transfers with China. What would you tell Prime Minister Trudeau if you had the opportunity to sit in his office? And I want this to come not from necessarily a technical place, but from your heart, from your moral sense of self. What would you tell the Prime Minister of Canada needs to be done?
Well, there's a growing movement against Trudeau right now, and what I would say to him is, it's enough to say we're disappointed, we're saddened to hear. That's just not good enough anymore. And we have 2 Canadians. They've been in jail since December 2018. Trudeau has not spoken up other than to say it's disappointing. That's just not acceptable. We can't accept that Canadians are sitting in jail with very little legal support, very little consular support. There's also another Canadian, by the way, last week who was sentenced to death for drug dealing. Imagine how many people would be sentenced to death in North America if that were the rule. So we can't stand and sit beside. He's got to be active. And, there's a lot of other things going on in this country as well. We've got Chinese companies backed by CCP that are buying our resource companies. That's not acceptable anymore. We've got what's going on in Hong Kong. We haven't banned Huawei. I think we're the only Five Eyes country that haven't banned Huawei yet. So what's going on? Why is he not doing anything to stand up? And like everyone else is around the world, Australia, UK is starting to stand up. The United States is. We're looking like the foolish ones, and you know what? The Canadians are going to stand up on his behalf.
Well, you know what I want to say, too, as an observer of Canada, someone who spent a lot of time up there. My roommate in college was a Canadian guy. One thing I can say about the Canadian character, they are kind of quiet people. They're not out there with their hair on fire, but they're immoral people, right? There's a huge current of morality inside the Canadian character. And I hope that people listening out there will be motivated by what Mark is doing. That you need to stand up, because everything that's being done by your government, just like here in the United States and any of the other quisling countries that are overtly participating with the CCP, they're doing it on your behalf. And so it's your moral character that is actually being harmed. So to me, Mark, you're a real inspiration, and I hope that thousands, tens of thousands of Canadians follow your example and show up the next time we have one of these protests, because this is a protest about humanity. It's not just a protest against the CCP. It's a protest against the tyranny that the CCP represents and the opposition to free people that it represents. So, Mark, what would you say to your fellow Canadians? What's your plea to them?
Look, I understand that over the last basically 45 years, we've been appeasing China, trying to create a bridge. We've got integrated trade and culture and economics, but they haven't changed, and it's actually getting a lot worse. As you know, they jailed Jimmy Lai last few days ago, and I think we can no longer participate. If we do, then we're complicit. We can't say, well, it's up to the government to determine what's good and what's not. If we're selling a company to a Chinese-backed Communist Party, that's a strategic resource for us. That's not good enough for the board of directors to agree to that. We have to hold them account. So what I want Canadians to do is actually stand up and make a noise. We've got 1.8 million Chinese in this country. There's no reason why we couldn't have 10, 20,000 people showing up at these half and half Chinese and half Canadian citizens telling them what we think. So I would just say, you know what, now's the time to speak up. We're not happy, and we can't, in good moral conscience, go forward and allow this to happen.
Just want to jump in here as well. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, when we did our protest on the 27th, there were protests in Australia, New Zealand, France, UK, Korea, Japan, and the United States. This is a global movement. We can't be left behind. We have to be the leaders on this.
It's such a good point. I just want to ask a question, and you may have covered it already. I've been, unfortunately, looking at this breaking news situation that we've got right now, so forgive me if I'm repeating anything here. But this is a global show. We have listeners from all around the world. We've had people calling in from Austria, from Australia, from the Middle East, from Europe and Canada and Latin America and beyond. And Mark, I think a lot of people out there, I mean, I've done this, you've now done this. I'm sure most people in this room have done this. I don't know about the people at home, but in going and taking part in something like this, I just want you to explain, because a lot of people out there, they feel like they may be too busy or it may be too dangerous. They don't want their faces on camera. They don't want to be targeted. They are fearful for their families. They're fearful for their jobs. They worry about the retribution that comes off the back of being an active participant in a protest. But I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about why you believe it's so important that people have and do take the courage, and what it entailed for you, because I think people think of it as far more complicated than it is.
You're absolutely right. When you're not a political activist and this is not part of who you are, and you all of a sudden put your face on a TV or in Twitter, and people actually start to know where your values are, it's scary. You don't know what people are going to say, or they're going to turn you down and not be your friends anymore. But you know what? I think, we fought through 2 wars. I was obviously not in any of them, but we owe it to our military and the people who gave us a free country to actually stand up to now what I call tyranny and massive violations of human rights. And you know what? It's easy to step over that fear once you go to the first event. And going with the Chinese group and having some Canadians there, white Canadians, black, it doesn't matter, whoever is native to Canada show up. It's a moral support to them, and they are strengthened by us being there. So I would say, you don't have to be on camera, but show your face, add some noise to the protest, and we'll make an impact to our politicians.
Well, Godspeed to you.
Hey, Mark Evans, I want to thank you, and I want to say for all the listeners out there, this is a regular Canadian guy, right? And he's standing up, and you know what? It feels good because it's your mortal soul that's on the balance here. It's the Canadian government's not going to the dark place. Neither is the U.S. government or anyone else. It's individuals who are going to be weighed and measured. So, right. Mark, we really appreciate your moral courage, and God bless you. And
just an open invite to come back, honestly. You're such an inspiration, I think, and you're going to inspire so many people. Thank you to Mark Evans. And by the way, it wasn't just 2 wars. Remember the War of 1812 that the Canadians bravely fought against tyranny as well. pushing back the invaders down back to the south. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic in just a moment.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus, it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress topper, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, only $29.99 with your promo code. With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, 2020's been a gut punch to American business, and if you're going to succeed, you need every possible advantage. Smart companies run on NetSuite by Oracle, a sponsor of this show and the world's #1 cloud business system. Get your free guide right now at netsuite.com/Bannon. You're back in the War Room. It is Thursday, August the 13th, the year of our Lord 2020. I got some people reprimanding me in the live comments for not announcing the date at the top of the show. My apologies, people. It is. You're right. It's a good historical marker to put down at the top of every show. Episode 332. You just heard from Mark Evans, one of the protesters who has summoned up the courage, stiffened his sinews, and gone to protest on behalf of all good and right and moral things in the world for the new federal state of China. I do want to bring you some breaking news that's coming out right now as well, ladies and gentlemen. Several news organizations, as well as the President of the United States, reporting that Israel and the United Arab Emirates have reached an historic peace deal. The peace deal was the product of lengthy discussions between Israel, the UAE, and the United States that accelerated recently. White House officials have said. We are continuing to look into the details of this, but it appears to be that President Trump helped to broker this deal It has clearly made Jack Maxey's diaphragm active this morning. President Trump tweeting just moments ago, huge breakthrough today. Historic peace agreement between our two great friends, Israel and the United Arab Emirates. The agreement was sealed in a phone call on Thursday between Trump, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. The officials described the agreement to be known as the Abraham Accords, as the first of its kind since Israel and Jordan signed a peace treaty in 1994. I'm just reading from the Jerusalem Post here. It also gives Trump a foreign policy success as he seeks re-election on November the 3rd. Pretty big deal, I think.
Well, I also think that there was a huge symbolic importance to the name of the accord, the Abraham Accord, because these are both Abrahamic religions. And to see them both identify in the same way in the title of their agreement, to me, is quite a revolutionary thing, I believe.
I completely agree with you. I think that's right. I think it's a good sign. All the sort of historic connotations come flooding to my mind when we're looking at breaking news like this, because what's the old Margaret Thatcher quote? She said, if I walked on water, they'd say I couldn't swim. And, you know, when you look at the Middle East as somewhere where people believe that nobody has had any success of bringing any semblance of peace to the Middle East. Now, this isn't a Middle East peace process thing. I get that. This isn't an Israeli-Palestinian thing. I get that. But this is very, very symbolic. It is very historic. It is something that hasn't happened, as you saw there, as I read, in decades. The last thing happening in this line of geopolitics was in 1994. So this is a big foreign policy win, and could be a big foreign policy win if it holds, for the president to tout as we approach November.
Well, and it's quite important because what you're seeing here is the UAE understands that they have no future if Iran takes a bigger role in the Middle East, and there's some danger there because we're here Saudi Arabia and Russia talking about different payment processes for oil exports to communist China. We know that communist China is in bed with the Iranians. So I think the UAE is making a wise decision concerning their future security by deciding to fall off the fence on the side of the Alliance of Liberty, which is an excellent sign in my opinion.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll keep an eye on the breaking story. If there's any more details to add, we'll let you know. But most news organizations just now coming to this information as well. I was looking as well at the historical Israel-UAE relations, and you know these two nations did not have any formal relations. So it's an extraordinary development, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Not something, again, that any previous administration does. And when you think about all the things that this president is currently going through in terms of being the leader of the free world, whether it's a global pandemic, an economic crisis, the Chinese Communist Party, what's going on in Europe, in Germany, in Russia, in the Middle East, and on the U.S. border, what's going on in the U.S. domestically, Antifa, the riots, all of it. It's I think, just an extraordinary development. Vish is smirking. What are you smirking about, Vish?
I'm enjoying your presentation, man.
Oh, right. Okay.
Come on. That's such an accusatory tone you've taken with me.
It is. Right, Jack, I want to get into the China flooding and the famine right now. It's something that you really had an eye on right from the beginning, when nobody else was talking about what was happening as it pertained to the Yangtze River and the Three Gorges Dam. Jack Maxey was there. Why don't you update us?
Well, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for probably a month now, and it seems that the mainstream media is catching up. There's going to be some serious food issues in China. And a big tell this morning, China state media, Global Times, put out a story that says China to stop food waste with legislation crackdown on eating shows. So they've launched this new program. It's called the Clean Plate Campaign 2.0. If anybody was a kid in America back in the good old days, the Clean Plate Club, if you remember it. Well, they're trying to impose this nationwide on China. They said that 17 to 18 million tons of food was wasted by restaurants last year that could feed 30 to 50 million people. And they're putting a clamp down on eating shows, which apparently are very popular on the WeChat, Weibo, and all these things where people will eat enormous amounts of food and people send them, little money and things like that. But they want to crack down on it because this is irresponsible. But what it highlights to me is it's very difficult to find good information about what is going on in China with the dam, with the amount of arable land that has been flooded. We don't know much about what's going on with the drought in northeast China, north of Beijing, which is their main corn growing area. But what we do know is that there are well over 10 million acres of farmland that have been flooded. We know that all the crops that were planted on those lands are lost for this year. There was a report out earlier this week that the Chinese, the PLA, was going to help people replant their crops. Now, I'm not sure which crops are going to come to harvest if they're replanted in the middle of August and be able to be harvested this year. So what we see constantly out of China is this disinformation campaign. And this is a disinformation campaign that's directed, I think, more at Chinese citizens than it is at us. One thing I think that is very illustrative for everybody as we're trying to understand what's going on in the flood, do a Google search a couple times a day on flood China. You find nothing. The Western media is not covering it at all. But if you want a big tell, go to AccuWeather and look at the satellite map of China. You will see bands of rain that are flowing across the Yangtze River drainage. Just this week, we had flooding in Beijing, which is not on the Yangtze River, but it shows you that Beijing almost never floods. Chongqing had the highest water level of this season just a day ago. If you look at the upper reaches of the Yangtze drainage, they have massive rain on the way. So again, we've talked about this balancing act. You think of the Yangtze River as two sides of a bathtub with a dam in the middle. And they've got to keep everything that's downstream of the dam, particularly the city of Wuhan, from flooding. But they've also got to keep a balancing act to keep the city of Chongqing and others upstream from the dam from flooding. The Chinese media says that they currently have a 55,000 cubic meters of water flowing in the upper reaches into the dam. It's not clear how much they're releasing downstream. But if they released an equivalent amount of water, you would see Wuhan underwater.
Wow.
And one of the things that people really have to understand, if Wuhan breaches their dikes, it's not going to be something that just ends over a matter of days or a week or so. It's going to take months for the water to drain out. If you see the interviews that they've done with the farmers south of the Yangtze and where that huge lake is that they've been using as an overflow for Yangtze flooding, when they talk about what happened in 1998, the water was sitting in their fields for over 3 months. And this would happen the same way inside a major city like Wuhan, which is larger than New York. This is something that we have to pay attention to.
Vish heard that you can eat a lot of food and get paid for it, and he wants to jump in here.
I wanted to know where these opportunities were. I didn't know such things existed.
Vish, you're a week late. Chairman Z has declared overeating to be a state crime, so you potentially would find yourself in quite some trouble on the streets of China.
Double Doug.
I consider myself a patriot at all times, and I will eat for freedom.
Vish is part of that clean plate club. Vish eats the plate.
It's interesting. I don't want to make too much of this, but observers of China will notice that Chairman Z has been slimming down considerably over the last several months.
Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. The rotund Chairman Z of Christmas is now the svelte, new fit Chairman Z.
Did you read this in like the Daily Mail sidebar or something?
No, I'm just observing pictures of him at official events. Now, one thing interesting, he's never showed up on anything to do with the flood. No major party members have shown up to appear at some disaster site for the flood.
Not even local party members? Are you talking just senior party members?
Local party members, but senior party members should have been there. I mean, the prior premier showed up.
We'll continue this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the blackout is crazy. The viewers know this footage has been available for us to a month, but now as the floods get more intense, there's less footage available. What's happening?
And he used the word less correctly there, so kudos to Vish. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic and more of this topic, because I don't want to go too far away from this. It's so important. Jack Maxey, Vish Burra, Raheem Kassam after the break.
Do you have any idea how your mattress affects your body and how well you sleep? Is it too hard or too soft, causing you to wake up with sore shoulders, back, or hips? Are you uncomfortable because you're too hot or too cold? Now you can get the total body support you need and the better sleep you want with the new MyPillow mattress topper.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. When I invented my new MyPillow mattress topper, I made it to have everything you'd ever want in a topper. My mattress topper helps give you the support you need, helps relieve your pressure points, and regulates your body temperature for you as an individual. It comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry the cover. It's made in the USA, and I back it with my 60-day money-back guarantee.
Go to MyPillow.com or call now to get your very own MyPillow mattress topper. Use the promo code and Mike will give you 30% off and 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free. Order now.
MyPillow topper delivers on its promise to give me a better night's sleep.
I can sleep all night through, and it's a miracle for me.
Mike's exclusive 3-layer design starts with a layer of MyPillow foam, providing you superior support and comfort. The second layer of transitional foam evenly distributes body weight and helps relieve uncomfortable pressure points for optimal comfort. Mike's ultra-soft outer layer is a patented temperature-regulating cover that helps keep you at your ideal sleeping temperature all night long. Unlike other sleep systems costing thousands, the MyPillow mattress topper takes comfort to a whole new level without any wires, remotes, or moving parts. Call now or go to MyPillow.com to order your MyPillow topper. Use the promo code to save 30%. When you do, Mike will give you 2 of his standard MyPillows absolutely free. That's right, 2 standard MyPillows free and 30% off your MyPillow topper today. Order now.
I personally guarantee it's going to change your bed into the most comfortable bed you'll ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, there's still turbulent times out there, and in such times you're going to need every possible advantage. NetSuite by Oracle is the world's #1 cloud business system. We're pleased to have NetSuite as a sponsor of this show. Smart companies use NetSuite because it gives you the visibility and control over your financials, your HR, your e-commerce, and more. Everything you need all in one place. Whether you're doing $1 million or hundreds of millions in sales, NetSuite gives you lets you manage every penny with precision. Join over 20,000 companies who trust NetSuite to make it happen for them. They've surveyed hundreds of business leaders, assembling a playbook of the top strategies they're using as America reopens for business. You can get that free guide right now, 7 actions businesses need to take, and schedule your free product tour at netsuite.com/Bannon. That's netsuite.com/Bannon. Welcome back to the War Room. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm especially just like chill this morning. And I feel like, no, I'm deadly serious, because we're on the topic of food. honestly, I just stopped eating carbs and sugar the last 2 days, and I'm just like totally like mellow now. I'm not having these like spikes, and I just thought that was something that everybody should know about.
If you
just so you know, alcohol is a sugar.
Well, it is, but it's okay if you're just having vodka sodas at Morton's at lunch, right?
If you say, Dr. Kassim.
Oh, I don't know if you'd believe me, Raheem, but the last few days I've only been going with one meal a day.
Yeah, but I mean, how big is that meal?
It's very normal. It's whatever the lunch is.
You know, as his housemate, I can actually.
Well, you two live together? That's
I
weird.
think the last 2 days we've had one meal each day.
You live together?
Yeah, we live together.
In the same room?
Totally. No. Yeah, totally not
Separated
weird.
by 2 floors.
Like a studio apartment? Or what's going on here, guys?
No, it's the barracks.
So it's a never-ending war room all day long with you guys.
You know, this is a 24-hour job trying to keep the world safe from the communist Chinese overlords. So Vish and I have to be ready every moment.
Oh, that's true. All right, Jack, back over to you. So on the topic of food.
I want to just touch back on this because this is something that's going to be global in its consequences. Harvests in much of Africa, particularly in Northeast Africa, have been hammered by the locust. This is true in the Middle East. Just the other day in Iowa, which is, I think, would be, if it was a country, the #1 corn producer in the world, they had a windstorm that destroyed potentially as much as 10% of Iowa's corn crop just a few days ago. So as I've been saying for months and months, we know that usually a famine will follow something like this pandemic, but China is really in a situation where they have everything operating against them. They've got the pandemic, they've got the floods, they've got potential famine to come after those floods because of destruction of their agriculture. They have a collapse of the internal transportation, which means that many market vegetables, things like that, are having trouble getting to markets to begin with. So even food that can be produced is not necessarily getting to the mouths that need it. This is something that I think we need to pay attention to, and I'd really like to see the president and his administration start to take a bigger lead in this, because one thing that America can do is feed the world. And we've done it for a long time, and I have a fear, and I want to talk about it briefly, that you're watching China make inroads into Brazil. And the reason why is because if they can create an agreement with Brazil to purchase all of Brazil's agricultural commodities, to purchase Brazil's mineral commodities, even Brazil's energy commodities, then they don't really need the United States, you know? So they're sort of purchasing behind the scenes the nation of Brazil. And I want all the Brazilians who are out there listening, because I know you're moral people. You know, you believe in a divine being. And it is your own character that is being taken advantage of by these agreements that are being done behind closed doors in Brazil to sell out your patrimony to a communist country whose first mission would be to tear down that statue in Rio de Janeiro. So remember your heritage, remember the proud people of Brazil have gone before you, and realize that this is something that's playing out right now, and it's playing out largely because of food insecurity inside China. So that was a long-winded way of saying that this is something that we've got to pay attention to. As always, we care deeply for the Lao Baixing, the average Chinese people who've been betrayed. Remember, it was the rural Chinese who've been flooded out to save these cities. So there are some real social consequences that are breaking out inside China, but we have to remember that, you know, the free world has to be united in opposition, and we can't let them play us against one another. Sorry for my long-winded comment. Back to you, Raheem.
No, absolutely. We appreciate it. I want to pivot now. There's a couple of other topics that we need to cover here. This morning you would have heard, or maybe didn't, because it has not exactly been getting back-to-back coverage here. In fact, what's even on the TV behind me? I bet it's an advertisement right now.
Yeah. Babble.
Yeah. But the unemployment numbers in the United States are looking to get better and better. 963,000 unemployment filings over the course of the last week, which is down significantly Once again, the media not wanting, however, to really get into that and how the Trump administration has been dealing with this pandemic and making sure that Americans have money in their pockets and are able to pay their rent and are looking forward to going back to work. But I wanted to bring you these clips as well from Peter Navarro. Why don't we roll clip 8, because I think Navarro gets it bang on in this in such a short amount of time. Let's roll it.
And there is this theory, Chuck, that the Democrats would prefer to see the economy go into the tank for another 90 days because that harms the president. I hope that Capitol Hill hasn't become that cynical. But watching these negotiations, it makes me wonder, because we've been willing to bend.
Let's roll the next one. Let's roll clip 10 on the back of that as well. Is it 9? Okay, let's roll clip 9 on the back of that as well. Let's roll clip 9.
We know that China, the Chinese Communist Party, infected the United States with that virus. Yet, what we have now is a society seemingly divided against each other. All the anger that's out there about the virus is directed not at the Chinese Communist Party, but at each other. And I think it's really important as we think about the China problem, we think not just about the usual problem. You remember, Bill, during the 2000s, it was the Chinese Communist Party that stole our jobs using all those unfair trade practices that President Trump is trying to get rid of using the tariffs and the Section 301 actions. But now we've even gone beyond that, where they've infected us with a virus, killed over 160,000 Americans. And it's what's weird to me, it's like too politically correct on a lot of the left-wing media to even assign any blame to the Chinese Communist Party. It's bizarre.
There's a lot of talk about the next Republican ticket after this election. I just want to suggest something to you all here. For the radio audience, Vish is going to read this out to you. I'm going to hold it up for the camera here.
It says Carlson Navarro 2024.
Come on now.
I'm a fan.
Come on now.
I'm a fan.
I can dig that. These numbers. I mean, you couple this with what we heard from Kamala Harris. I'm supposed to say Kamala, aren't I?
No.
I can't.
Whatever.
I'm not trying to be offensive. It's just the way the word looks in my Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Okay.
Am I getting that one right?
Okay, bigot. Yeah, you got that right.
Or is it bidon? When you hear what they were saying yesterday when they appeared together, I believe for the first time, right? And then it was actually National Review, and I'm not a big National Review guy. It was actually National Review that did this article by Carl Smith. Kamala Harris lies repeatedly in first speech as Biden's running mate. And going through where she talks about the economy, she talks about the pandemic, she talks about the reopening of schools, and she blames President Trump for all of those things. She blames him for the lockdowns, she blames him for keeping schools closed, and she blames him for the economy. And chaps, I just want to understand, like, if you're a Democrat strategist, if you're a smart candidate, surely you don't go to try and pin the responsibility for things that are not just clearly out of the president's control, like a global pandemic, but also things that he has opposed, like closing the schools or keeping the schools closed, and like the lockdowns and double lockdowns and triple lockdowns and quadruple lockdowns or whatever is coming, right? Am I missing something here? Because I've run campaigns before, I've run national campaigns before, and that just seems to me like a dumb and losing strategy. Are they smarter than me?
Dude, this is as you said, Raheem, this is the 2020 Democrats playbook, by the book, orange man bad. That's it. It's that simple. It can only be explained with pure hatred and political posturing. There's no other game to this, right? The president must lose on November 3rd, 2020, and everything you got is to be left out on the field when trying to defeat him. Lie, cheat, steal, does not matter. Put it all on his back and make America pay.
Well, there's something I'd like to say about this. We see this new advisor, the president from Stanford. He's come out. He said he wants us to open the schools. Of course, everybody should go out and play athletics. there's been this debate, right, about, we think we've got a clip on it, about football in the fall being the key to the election. I think one thing that's really interesting, you're watching these presidents of the Pac-12 say that they don't want to go forward with college athletics because of the danger, yet they don't want to define the danger. Nobody can, nobody's throwing up the charts of the number of people who are college-age athletes who might die of this disease. So you have to ask the question, and we can sort of look at college presidents. I can pretty much guarantee none of them are voting for Donald Trump. And you have to wonder, is there sort of collusion here amongst higher academia to try and harm the president, to try and harm this MAGA movement by keeping us in shutdown, even though the science does not support it? I think this is a serious question. And let's remember this. Most of these universities that are creating this roadblock for our kids getting back to school, they all receive federal funding. Okay, if you're not going to be open and educating our children, I think it's time to cut the federal funding to those schools, in my opinion.
Well, now that you mention it, I actually was watching First Take yesterday.
Now, what is this?
First Take, ESPN. It's,
Okay.
It's a sports commentary show.
Okay.
But the best talent on all of ESPN, I believe, is Stephen A. Smith, and he came in with this take that I thought must be played on this show, and because Steve Bannon's dictum. No football, no Trump. AVN, let's roll clip 3.
No SEC football, no ACC football. The fallout may be far more exceeding than just football and local economies. It might very well end up affecting the election in 2020.
There you have it. So it is.
Has he been listening to War Room Pandemic?
I mean, I don't even think Steve necessarily said that on the show. Has he? He's
got to read between the lines.
He's definitely. I know Stephen A. has his pulse on America like no other. Even when when Trump first won the election in 2016, he came out the next day and he said, "You know why Donald Trump won? Because he put in all the hard work, went around across the country, rallies it per day, and Hillary Clinton did not do that. She did not deserve to win. He did."
Well, I think the left has.
Hang on. We got a break here, Jack. I will bring you back on for that thought after this short break, and we'll also, when we come back, discuss the winning that we're not tired of. President Trump apparently to designate the Chinese propaganda Confucius Institutes as foreign missions. Hashtag winning room pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. You know me as the My Pillow guy, but what you might not know is my story. I've spent years writing my memoir, and it's finally done. Before this terrible pandemic came upon us, I had already wrote, I dedicate this book to anyone looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. And I've always used mathematics to prove that God exists. In our lives, we've had things happen that are 1 in a million or a 1 in a billion, or we might say that's impossible. Well, when do we say it all has to be a miracle? My life has been like living inside of a movie, and in my book, I have pictures that are going to validate everything that you're going to read. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible.
Mike spent the last 7 years writing his book to share his life story. In this difficult time we are in, Mike's book will bring much needed inspiration and hope to everyone who reads it.
But now the game was over. The house had won. I was going to die right here on this deserted street, a small item in the news. American tourist goes missing in Mexico.
Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card. Mike shares his incredible story of addiction, divine intervention, and hope. In his new memoir, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, learn how Mike's 14 near-death experiences and heavy crack addiction led him from a place of total darkness into the light. Mike's personal stories of transformation remind us that with faith, all things are possible. Call now or visit MyPillow.com to purchase What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. Enter the promo code and you'll receive free shipping. Mike will also include a free $25 MyPillow gift card.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. Vish Burra, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam here from Capitol Hill with you for the next, I guess 7 or so minutes. It's the time of day, by the way, where we get the comments in the live thing going, can't we have a third hour? You may soon enough, believe it or not. Jack Maxey, where did you want to take us?
No, I wanted to say, when we talk about sports in the fall and how it could affect the election, I think what is happening across the West, and I use as an example a protest in Montreal over the weekend, where they were protesting the wearing of masks. And the CBC reporter, what really shocked them was that when they went to this protest, there were thousands of people there, and it represented the entire spectrum, from right-wingers all the way down to, LGBTQ progressives. Everybody is sick and tired of being lectured to. Everybody is sick and tired of being told that the world is going to fall in if they don't stay in their basements and shelter. And the reality is, for most of us looking around, it's not really affecting us. Let's be real. And our governments failed us in the elderly. They absolutely failed. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't mean that the entire society suffers because the powers that be failed in their singular job to protect people over 65 years of age.
Right.
The rest of the world wants to open up, and you see this from the progressive left to the conservative right. They are tired of government controlling every aspect of your life. So you people out there, you Bernie Sanders supporter, you people who are libertarian, the only avenue for you is through Donald Trump. It's not going to be through Kamala Harris, or as one of our brilliant listeners described her just momentarily ago as Camarada Harris, it's spelled with a K. I think that we have to understand that the freedom of the West is on the line, and football is just a symptom of that destruction going on before us.
Yeah, I think that's right. Or what we could all do is start watching the Premier League and a real sport.
What is that?
The world's most popular sport.
Well, now we always get into arguments on this show about the soft nature of football and soccer.
There's no argument
compared to the NFL. Now,
yeah.
Now,
just cover yourself in padding, put a little helmet on so you can't get hurt.
Hey, listen, if you really want another tell on this, right? This goes to exactly to my point about the average people, even the lefties, getting sick and tired of this nonsense. Here's the headline: players kneeling for anthem met with boos before the MLS game.
Yes.
This just came out this morning. There was a game yesterday between FC Dallas and Nashville, South Carolina. And all the players went out there to kneel to show their support for BLM. And half the stands screamed and booed. Now, I've never been to an MLS game, right? But I've got to imagine it's probably single moms and their kids.
What?
And then probably Latin American guys and Raheem filling the stands. So this wouldn't be exactly what I would call a bastion of right-wingers, and even they are sick of it. What we are asking you is to stand up and say you're sick of it too, because they can't stop us all.
Firstly, any room or stadium I'm in automatically becomes the most right-wing place in the world. Fact check. Right? Secondly, you've got to understand, and this has been happening in the UK as well, because remember, you even saw the fans flying a banner over one of the, I think it was Burnley Football Club, that said "White Lives Matter" or "All Lives Matter" or something like that, because football fans are very different from the footballers, right? Football fans aren't hanging out in the posh Mayfair clubs. Football fans, I mean, you go and watch any of these, or go watch a documentary about Millwall, right? I mean, these are the backbone of the nation. These are the people who are in the coal mines back in the day, you know? Anyway, I digress. So we've got a couple of minutes left here, and I just want to make mention of the rumor that President Trump is set to designate Chinese propaganda Confucius Institutes as foreign missions. Now, we've been banging on about the Confucius Institutes both here on the show and on the National Pulse for quite some time now. So we regard this as hashtag winning. People who have been implicated with the Confucius Institutes so far: Joe Biden, Prince Andrew, Muriel Bowser, the National Press Club, the U.S. College Entrance Exam Board, previous presidents of the United States. And the Confucius Institute is basically the Chinese propaganda arm. I mean, it's wholly owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and they use this Confucius Institutes to push CCP propaganda into the classroom, into colleges, into curriculums, tie-ups with local governments, with the mayor of Washington, D.C., etc., etc. So if this is true, if the reporting is true, then it marks a very, very significant change in what the Chinese Communist Party may be able to do in terms of propagandizing here.
And it's a big wake-up call, Raheem. I mean, we talked about this during the break. What strikes me so much about calling these Confucius Institutes tools of the propaganda arm of the Chinese Communist government is, we say history repeats itself. Well, I think it was George Carlin who said maybe it doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes.
Yeah.
And when we see this move to shut down the Confucian Institutes as propaganda arms of the CCP, it parallels what the Roosevelt administration did in 40 and 41 by shutting down these Bund organizations around the country that were operating as propaganda arms for the Nazis.
Yeah.
So there is an equivalent here, people.
There absolutely is. All right, we've got a couple of seconds left. I want to tease something I've been talking about for a while. The new National Pulse show may be coming soon. Let's roll the teaser. Coming soon to an America's Voice near you. And by the way, nobody at America's Voice had even seen that yet. So that's not just a premiere and an exclusive to the audience. It's actually an exclusive to the network.
Did you steal Hans Zimmer from The Dark Knight to make that score?
Yes, that's what I did. All right, I want to thank Ann Luty for making that for me.
Raheem Kassam, The Dark Knight.
That was dope.
We'll see you tomorrow. More hashtag War and Pandemic.